Hello, this is Michael from Hawksbury Activism. I have deep respect for Bill Johnson. I've even defended him a couple of times here on this YouTube channel, where he has been falsely accused of being a false prophet. The charismatic ministry that they have at Bethel have healed a lot of people, and many people have been saved. Many people have had a deeper understanding of their identity in Christ. But I am also very, very concerned with the political views of Bill Johnson, especially the ones that he has recently expressed in an article at the Gospel Herald, where he explains why he voted for Donald Trump. First of all, he states that he found in the Bible that murder and abortion is wrong, and I agree with that. The problem is when you automatically think that this means you should support Donald Trump. When you look at Donald Trump, you don't see a clearly pro-life candidate. In fact, he has changed his opinion on abortion several times. And when we say that murder is wrong, we cannot just talk about abortion. Donald Trump has said that he wants to kill women and children in Syria and Iraq.
You have to take out their families. When you get these terrorists, you have to take out their families. They care about their lives, don't kid yourself. But they say they don't care about their lives. You have to take out their families.
He has said that he thinks that climate change is a hoax invented by the Chinese, and obviously don't want to do much at all to stop the upcoming climate catastrophe. And that, my friends, will, if nothing is done, kill hundreds of millions of people, including a lot of infants and unborn people. Many security officials and military officials in the United States have stated that he is a threat, and that is also what other countries are saying. He further on says that he found in the Bible that compassion for aliens or immigrants is vital, but there is a responsibility to provide safety for citizens, and that comes first. Now, he has not found that in the Bible, and of course I refer to the second part of that sentence. The Bible clearly says in Leviticus 19, when an alien lives with you in your land, do not mistreat him. The alien living with you must be treated as one of your native born. Love him as yourself, for you were aliens in Egypt. I am the Lord your God. As a common thread in all the biblical teachings on how to treat immigrants, there is nothing that suggests that the native borns should have a special place. Rather, it is emphasized that the immigrants should be treated exactly like the native borns. He further on states that he found in the Bible that honesty is a core value of God's kingdom, and yes, of course it is. Then he says that Hillary Clinton has lied, and yes, she has, but Donald Trump has lied even more. In fact, there's hardly any presidential candidate that has lied so much than Donald Trump. So this is not an argument for voting for Trump. He even says, I also found that oftentimes the welfare system masquerades as compassionate when it actually robs people of their much needed self-esteem gained in their ability to work. Bill didn't find that in the Bible, and maybe he isn't claiming that, but he uses this phrase, I found, referring to the Bible. But here, obviously, he's talking about a political discourse rather than a Bible study. He says, I've found that socialism is contrary to Jesus and his teaching. And when Jesus talked about taking from the one person who had one talent and gave it to the one who had the most, he disqualifies himself from being a socialist. Now, what Bill Johnson refers to there is a parable in Matthew 25 that isn't about money. It cannot be, because the implications, if that parable was about money, would be that the one who doesn't invest or place his or her money in the bank will go to hell. While I agree with Bill Johnson that Jesus doesn't stand for coercion, the Bible and the New Testament especially is very clear that economic equality is something good that we should strive for. And just the fact that the Apostolic Church in Jerusalem, the first church, which all other churches come from, had community of goods, where nobody was rich, nobody was poor, everybody's needs were met. That's a fact, and it is not condemned by the New Testament. It is being praised, it's being lifted up as a good example. Furthermore, to argue against robbing the rich by taxes is not really an argument for conservatism, is an argument for anarchy. Because if you think that tax is theft and when a rich person pays a lot of taxes that then goes to the poor, that's contrary to the teachings of Jesus, you're arguing that the tax system should be abolished, because all taxes are about that. And then it says, I found that accusations of racism to be serious enough for all Americans to start take notice that we might be a part of the solution and not add to the problem. I doubt that he found that in the Bible, but if we are gracious to Bill, yes, the Bible clearly implicates that racism is wrong. But then he tries to argue that Trump isn't a racist, and that, my friends, is impossible. The statements that he had made about black people, about Latinos and Latinas, about Muslims are too numerous and too hostile to be able to think that Trump isn't a racist. There's a reason that he is endorsed by the very Ku Klux Klan and the far-right extremists of America. Johnson says that Trump was never called a racist until he ran against Clinton. That is clearly false. And there's a good article on Fortune that shows how Trump has been acting racist for most of his career. He says that I found that he who blesses Israel is blessed of the Lord. Israel, in biblical language, cannot be equated with the secular modern state of the same name. It is equal to the Jewish people. And something that baffles me is that church leaders aren't protesting against the apparent anti-Semitism in Donald Trump's campaign. There's an article by Dana Milbank that showcases that anti-Semitism is no longer an undertone of Trump's campaign, it's the melody, and this was revealed just in the last days of his campaign, that he is using anti-Semitic tropes and he's targeting Jews as these rich bankers who has this conspiracy with Hillary Clinton, which is extremely troubling. He says that God values each nation uniquely and that he found in the Bible that globalization is something bad. Well, if that's the case, then the United States shouldn't be in the position where it is as the richest country on the earth. The United States have become so rich and powerful because of globalization. You won't be able to be rich when you're against globalization. And I do think it is a major problem that the United States is as rich as it is. If everybody lived like the average American, we would need 5 planets. We have only 1. So go on, be against globalization, but don't support Trump then. And finally, Bill Johnson found in the Bible that speaking of women in a sexually demeaning way is wrong. Yes, it is. This is not an argument for Trump, and I guess Bill Johnson realizes this, but he immediately goes on saying it is inexcusable but not unforgivable. I also found that it is important to forgive people who ask for forgiveness. Trump acknowledged his error of 10 years ago and publicly apologized. Well, Bill, why do you bring that up now and not when you talk about Hillary Clinton? Because of course, she has apologized for how she treated her emails. She has apologized for what she did during the Benghazi crisis. And yet those are arguments you use against her for Trump, but then when it comes to the sins of Trump, you immediately forgive. It is also very troubling that Bill Johnson seems not to be able to see, or pretends not to see, that Donald Trump is still extremely sexist. This isn't just about an event that occurred 10 years ago. This is something that has been going on throughout his campaign. The way he talks about other women, about Miss Universes, about Hillary Clinton herself, about female journalists is so sinful. This is a major mistake by Bill Johnson. And I believe that Bethel Church and the charismatic movement as a whole will suffer a lot because of this Trump support. We are better than this. And if we stop making compromises and actually try to show the world how beautiful a kingdom-inspired society can be, then we will be able to stand more honest and more pure when Jesus comes back compared to what we're doing now. Thank you for watching, and God bless you.